The national anthem has wrapped up and the AUDL playoffs are just about ready to begin. Welcome to Dallas, Texas, where tonight the defending AUDL champions are just battling to stay alive in the 2017 march to Montreal. It's Jacksonville and Dallas as the 2017 AUDL playoffs begin. We are at the Colony in Texas, a steamy Saturday night. With Chuck Kindred, I am Evan Lepler, and there is certainly an energy at this facility. This game has been hyped. There's been a lot discussed about whether this game could be chippy. These are two teams that certainly have a lot of confidence and swagger. We're about 90 seconds away from the opening pull. Chuck, what's going through your mind?
Well, I think a lot of us were shocked to see Jacksonville come in here last time and whoop on Dallas. I mean, it was a close game, but they came in here and did what they wanted against a Dallas team that was at home, that was very invested in getting that win back after Jacksonville handed them their first franchise loss. And you just can't count out Jacksonville ever.
The Cannons finished the regular season 10-4 in third place in the South. The Dallas Roughnecks 11-3 in the second spot. However, in the two regular season meetings, Jacksonville beat Dallas. They beat them back in May in a game in Jacksonville when the Roughnecks did not have their top squad. And then they beat them right here 3 weeks and 1 day ago on a Friday night here at the Colony. And that was the game that really sent shockwaves through the league. And I know both teams will have plenty of adjustments, and the chess match early tonight should be very interesting.
I think so. Dallas really needs to make some strategic adjustments after that last game. They were getting, roasted deep. There were a lot of poached Ds from Misha Freistadter and, maybe a misuse of Muffin. Muffin's such an offensive weapon, and they were using him on D, creating some mismatches. And, Huston went off in that game, as usual, I should say.
Jordan Huston had 11 goals in that game, although that was about half as many as he would have the following week when Jordan Huston of Jacksonville set an AUDL record with 22 goals in a single game. These are two of the top 5 scoring teams in the league, averaging around 26 and 25 goals per game, respectively. Jacksonville will begin on defense. The Roughnecks won the toss and chose to start on the right side of the field from our vantage point. So Dallas will begin out there on offense, and their head coach Patrick Eberle said before the game, look, we're going to change our style a little bit, especially offensively. They're going to rely on their quickness and speed, perhaps more than their size. And that, I think, is trying to combat Jacksonville, because clearly they have the size with both Freistadter and the athleticism of Jakeem Polk.
I think you're right. The wind has been picking up pretty substantially over the past hour here. And I think that's going to change things quite a bit. I mean, when you've got great size, when you have huge height advantages, the wind is kind of makes it nice and easy, because nobody's going to get a clean read, and therefore nobody's going to get a clean jump. The timing is going to be very difficult, and a lot of times height ends up winning out in those situations. However, I'd say if you're looking at guys that can throw in the wind, Dallas probably has the advantage. They've got the higher caliber throwers with guys like Mickle, Muffin, Freechild. The wind should not bother this squad.
Roughnecks were certainly excited when the wind started to pick up just in the past couple of hours. Here's the Dallas O-line that they'll begin the night with. Kurt Gibson will start with the disc. Brandon Muffin Malachek and Matt Jackson will be the fellow handlers, with Jimmy Mickle, Abe Coffin, Thomas Slack, and Ben Laurie downfield. Dylan Freechild and Chris Mazer starting the game, at least at the outset, on defense for Dallas. And little junk that the Cannons come out with right away. That's Carlton and Chard on the double team. Of course, Jimmy Mickle just flew back from Europe yesterday. He and Dylan Freechild, after winning gold medals at the World Games last weekend in Poland, flew from Wrocław to London to Orlando to Dallas. And he said he got a good night's sleep and he's feeling good and ready to go.
Unbelievable. It must be nice to be young.
Second game of the year for Kurt Gibson. His first at home after he needed surgery for a pectoral injury suffered before the season. Roughnecks take their time, and a rifle from Gibson to Coffin to make it 1-0.
Yeah, not a bad look from Jacksonville, and they forced a lot of throws. I mean, you're going against a Dallas squad that's very comfortable with the disc, has so many just high caliber throwers on the line. But this wind is very gusty, and it's a crosswind. They were able to keep them on the downwind side of the field the entire possession. So it's not all bad news if you're Jacksonville with that zone look. You might want to go back to it.
49 seconds coming off the clock on that initial possession. Big news for the Jacksonville O-line, Chuck. Unfortunately, their leading quarterback throughout the season, Bobby Lay, who finished second in the league in completions, in the top 10 in assists, he is not here. And a sad personal story, a funeral that he had to attend today. He is on his way, and the Cannons are hoping he can be here by around halftime. But for the moment, Chris LaRocque shifts over to the O-line. He's played a lot of defense, and Joel Clutton called for bumping Jeremy Langdon from behind. And the referees on top of it. Blake Grundy, Dan Richards, Julie Gordon, and Kevin Graham, the 4 officials today.
Well, with that throw, you start to get to see how intense this wind is. I mean, that's the kind of throw you're not going to see at the pro level very often. And here's a downwind swing. You can see he almost barely puts any speed on it, throws it as high as possible, and it just coasts all the way to his receiver. So a big crosswind that these guys are dealing with right now.
First touch for Jordan Huston. Back to Tyler Kunsa. And this is LaRocque, chased by Chris Mazer. LaRocque shoots it. Michael Fairley in pursuit. Stanley Peterson poached off, and the throw sails past them all.
And there you see the wrong shape on that throw for this crosswind. The wind's kicking left to right. You're tilting the disc IO, which is left to right. And as a result, that gets away from Chris LaRocque.
It's an early break opportunity for Dallas, and it's nice to have an O-line with Chris Mazer and D-line, I should say, with Mazer and Freechild. Freechild with that bleached blonde hair. Every member of the USA team bleached the hair before the World Games. It was the idea of Grant Lindsley to try to bring the team together and do something goofy, and he definitely did that. You ever done that to your hair?
Never. I'm actually going to have a talk with Grant. 'Cause I think when you're representing the U.S., you should have to at least get some buy-in from your members for everybody going with bleached tips at Worlds.
Mazer shoots it. Freechild in the end zone, and he's got it. The Roughnecks break. For the first time here in Dallas, Dylan Freechild is playing in front of his mother, who surprised him at the airport last night. They got off the plane, his mother was there, and Dylan was so happy to see her. The first thing he said was, "What are you doing here?"
Just what a mother wants to hear from her son. That's pretty special. And actually, I don't know how these guys do this. Coming off a jet lag, when you're flying east to west like that across, what is that, 6, 7 time zones to get here? I mean, that is not easy, and the body does not usually respond well. These guys are out here in 90-degree heat the day after they get back from Poland. Tough, very tough.
Matt Bennett launches the pull for the Roughnecks. 9:19 left in the first quarter. And certainly not the start that the Cannons had in the last game. Last time these two teams were tied at 5s, and then Jacksonville wanted a big 3-0 run to close out the first quarter. It was 8-5 at the end of one. Cannons built a lead by as many as 7, which frankly is the biggest deficit Dallas has ever experienced.
And you can see the struggle that these throwers are having hitting open receivers deep to this upwind side of the field. It's so tough to keep the angle on the disc against that wind.
Huston being chased by Dylan Larberg. Back to Andrew Roney. Roney had an underratedly big season. He finished with 50 assists. One of just 11 players in the league with at least 50 assists this year. Of course, he was second on his team. Bobby Lay finished the year with 55 assists. And there's another turnover.
And
Dallas.
Look at the wind wreak havoc here. I mean, on that throw to the goal is actually the right throw. Looked like it was well executed, even taking into account the wind. Still, the wind flutters the disc for a half a second. Your catch is missed. And these two teams trade turnovers.
LaRocque, former star at Florida State, The swing low and too low. Kunsa did not have a play. You know, when I got here, Chuck, a couple hours ago, it was a very faint breeze, and it has really picked up to the point where now the wind is the story.
Yeah, it really is. And it sounds like there's a front moving in this evening. It's going to cool it off. Might make it easier for these athletes to make it through the game physically, but certainly this is just a way different setup. Great throw by Bennett up against the wind.
Chris Larberg, marked by Michael Fairley. Back to Bennett. Drove 4.5 hours from Houston to get here today, and that disc intended for Frood, cleaned up by Dylan Larberg. Wow. Dylan looked off his brother Chris and found Dalton Smith for the score, and the Roughnecks lead 3-0, and the Cannons are looking stunned on the near sideline.
Yeah, not a good start for Jacksonville. I mean, certainly these guys will never will never give up and never lack in any kind of confidence, but Dallas looking sharp, and they're looking a lot more comfortable in the wind, I would say, as well.
So Jacksonville retaking the field with an O-line that includes Cole Sullivan and Misha Freistatter, who were the dynamic duo a year ago. Of course, Chuck, it's fascinating because those two guys had such great statistical years in 2016, but it didn't really materialize into team success for this Cannons team. This year, their top two goal scorers, Jeremy Langdon, Jordan Huston, they were playing for Dallas and Raleigh respectively last year. Sullivan and Freistatter have adapted, and it's really been better for the team as a whole.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you want to be on a good team, you want to be in a good system where things are working and it's easy. And I think, you know, last year they kind of didn't have what they needed to really win the division or, you know, get to the finals. And as a result, they just kind of did their thing. Cole and Misha know how to score, that's for sure.
Dallas really making every throw difficult right now. Freistatter has nowhere to go downfield. Even the reset was hard on the sidelines. And with the stall count rising, Perales forced to jack it. It's nice to have a 6'8" target. Freistatter got hammered. That has to be a foul.
You'd think, right?
Jacksonville punches it in, thankfully. Maybe not intentionally, but he certainly got hit, and they should have been able to center the disc and reset the stall count. Nevertheless, the Cannons took them 5 minutes and 39 seconds, but they are on the board here in the first.
Yeah, such a sad story about Bobby Lay as well. I mean, you look at him on that point and compare that to the last game when they're here. I mean, man, when he had the disc, if you're rooting for Jacksonville, you just got to be real happy with him having the disc. He made so many good decisions, got that flick around the mark so many different times for goals, usually to Jordan Huston. But just one of those guys that really opens up the field. And when you're trapped on a sideline, you know, that's where you want your A1 handler with the disc, and they're doing their best.
Lay this year was 6th in the league in assists, but he was 2nd in completions. He had over 50 completions in both wins against Dallas. Huge part of that foundation.
Well, he'll be coming down the tunnel like Bill Russell at halftime, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Hopefully his flight's on time. Malachek, certainly involved in some words with Jacksonville throughout the season. These are two teams that, you know, have a great competitive streak about them, and that's probably putting it nicely.
No doubt, no doubt.
This is Gibson underneath to Slack. Gibson breaks the mark again. And then Gibson races past his man, which happens to be his brother, Chris. How about that? Chris Gibson marking Kurt Gibson.
Bizarre.
And Kurt Gibson's throw just out of the reach of Slack. So opening here for Jacksonville.
Yeah, Kurt almost too good at getting that IO lane. I mean, that was such a difficult throw to even attempt, but he's been getting the IO so consistently that he takes the shot.
Jakeem Paul quickly back to Travaglini for Freystadter. He's got it! Just shy of the goal line, Laurie gets the mark on, and Freystadter finds Gibson. It's Chris Gibson who has the goal for the Cannons.
What a sick play by Freystadter. This guy is a huge, huge receiver. Uses his body, knows that the wind's kicking right to left here, so the shot goes up. This is going to keep diving to the left. Freystadter holds his position and says, if it gets a little too high, I'll sacrifice the body to make the play, and he does just that with the left hand in the wind. What a star.
And how about Chris Gibson finishing the point with the goal after trying to play defense on his brother, Kurt. You know that Chris had to reschedule his wedding date because of Kurt's appearance on The Amazing Race? Kurt Gibson, Brody Smith obviously appeared on CBS's show The Amazing Race, and Chris offered to reschedule his wedding so his brother could be there, although Kurt won a couple trips on The Amazing Race and gave one of them to his brother and his new sister-in-law.
I wonder if there's a metaphor about their relationship somehow in that story.
What do you got in mind?
Kurt eats first. That's my synopsis.
Laurie couldn't handle that pass on the sideline. Plenty of time for Sullivan, who will launch the floating backhand. Jakeem Polk in a battle with Freechild. And holy cow, a huge mistake in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, Cole, so that throw from Cole Sullivan obviously sits up quite a while.
That was Alton Gaines who had the clap catch and just dropped it near the back line.
Played it just right. Took his eye off the ball right at the last second. But yeah, that throw from Cole Sullivan looks like a pretty loose throw. But if you're Florida and you got some big receivers, some guys that play well in the air, what he did is he got it up high, kept it in bounds, kept it flat. And it lets your guys who like to go up and rip it down over defenders, get in there and do their thing.
Dallas shredding this Jacksonville zone right now. Dalton Smith centers to a wide open Matt Jackson. Jackson had a tumultuous year, broke several bones in his arm, in his throwing arm, his right arm.
His recovery's been pretty impressive.
Well, he played through it, being a shell of himself, and he's just getting back to his old self. There's Freechild in the end zone for Dallas to make it 4-2.
Yeah, apparently he went in for a doctor's checkup, and the doctor said, just keep doing what you're doing. What the doctor meant was, yeah, just do your rehab and don't play Ultimate Frisbee. And he thought, well, if I just keep doing what I always do, well, that would just be playing Ultimate Frisbee. So he got out and started playing. And the story I heard from Emmy Fitzgerald was that is not what the doctor meant. But Jackson, just such a trooper, always in shape and luckily durable enough to make it work.
Now, there's been talk over the course of the past few months about how this Dallas team is different from the team that went undefeated and won a title last year. And, there are some big pieces that aren't here, but the team really isn't as different as you would think. I wrote on the AUDL.com on Thursday that basically 16 of the guys that are playing tonight are guys that were on the roster in championship weekend last year. So, yes, you're missing Bo Kittredge and Cassidy Rasmussen, but you have added guys like Jay Frood and Abe Coffin. A lot of similar faces, but throughout the season, these similar faces have dealt with injury. Obviously, Jackson's injury. Dan Emmons missed some time. Kurt Gibson, obviously, was not around for pretty much the entire year. This is Travis Catron for Jacksonville. Under 3 to play here in the first quarter. Winner of this game takes on the Raleigh Flyers in 2 weeks. Jordan Huston was thinking about it. Stall count rising, and it is a stall.
LaRock and Huston not happy about that stall call. I'm not sure what they're arguing about exactly.
He held the disc for a while.
Sure did. Might have been a foul on the reset. I'm not sure.
Bennett initiates. Dylan Larberg. Back to Bennett. He's playing a two-man game across the field. Now Frood's on the stage. Great decision to switch fields. Chris Larberg resets for Smith. Dangerous blade to the back of the end zone. It did not work. Great recovery from Mike Fairley for Jacksonville to come up with a D.
Yeah, Dalton's one of these guys. He gets a little itchy with the disc, doesn't he? Sometimes lets it go a little early, or gets a little impatient. Obviously, there's an open guy.
LaRock airs it out. Freystadter tried to adjust, and Dalton Smith gets the D.
It's Catron on the catch, I believe.
Yeah, you're right.
They look so similar. I do that all the time.
Stanley Peterson, this one he'll come down within the end zone. Nice shot from Dylan Larberg.
Yeah.
Recently married, just rejoined the team after he wasn't on the roster for most of the season. He's got 2 assists in the first quarter.
It's pretty nice when you got guys like Jay Frood and Larberg who are so fast that you'd think, well, they're probably best at just running, and then they come out and make 2 big boy throws that are around from Jay Frood into the wind around the mark of Misha Freystadter. Should have earned them a goal, and then the next shot from Larberg. I mean, that's kind of the luxury of playing on this Dallas Roughnecks team. You've got guys who've got all the different tools and who are well-trained, in shape, ready to roll. And you don't really need to play hero ball. You've got guys like Kurt Gibson if needed, but, I mean, honestly, they should be able to just roll through this game.
As you said earlier, Jacksonville's certainly not going to quit. And this is a team that has been explosive throughout the season. Andrew Roney, Tyler Kunsa running the offense. Again, if you joined us late, Bobby Lay not here for Jacksonville. Oh, Fairley fortunate to come up with that one. I believe Clutton got a piece of it. Fairley comes down with it. Bobby Lay with a funeral to attend this afternoon in Florida. We hear that he is en route right now. Roney sends it to Sullivan. And one more flip into the end zone to Fairley. 5-3, Cannons back within 2.
Very smooth throw from Cole Sullivan. Keeps his momentum, doesn't let the mark get set, and gets it down low enough that the air doesn't take that one away. Pretty smooth, Mr. Sullivan.
Well, Cole Sullivan's a guy who, mustered 82 assists last year.
But who's counting? Our statisticians are. Okay, our statisticians are counting.
He had a real down year this year. He only had 42, which seems like a lot. But compared to last year, obviously, very different role that he played this year. Also, Cole Sullivan dealing with a back injury that prevented him from playing as big of a role down the stretch. It's funny, though, this team has really changed its mentality. For the first 5 games of the year, Cole Sullivan led the team in completions. And then throughout the last 9 games, it's been Bobby Lay. 6 of those 9 games, it's been Lay at the top of the team in the quarterback distribution role. Dallas back on offense with Mickle, Gibson, Malachek, Coffin, Jackson, Slack, and Laurie with a disc. Under 30 seconds in the opening quarter. Jacksonville will receive to start quarter number 2. These situations you'll look back on at the end of the game, and that's a tough drop from Kurt Gibson. And Chris Gibson's throw is high, but you hear a whistle, and a timeout was called from the sideline by Tuba Benson-Jaja, the coach of the Cannons. Just before Gibson released the throw, Jacksonville will keep the disc with 6 seconds on the clock.
Wow. Nice call by Tuba. He knows something we don't, apparently.
They're going to put a couple seconds back, so 8 seconds on the clock for the Cannons. Obviously a huge opportunity here. Just stopping Dallas from scoring is big. If you could somehow put one in here at the buzzer, you'd gain all kinds of momentum.
Yeah, that would be a huge win for Jacksonville. They are not playing their best, okay? That's just the way it is. They're not playing their best. They look a little uncomfortable in the wind. And if they score here and they're down 1 to Dallas after playing a pretty subpar quarter for them, and Dallas is at home, like, if I'm a Jacksonville fan, I'm feeling pretty good at that point. I also like what they did on D there. They were really, really diligent downfield, good pressure man D, and nobody letting their cutter get a step deep, making them take the 10-yard under, the 5 or 10-yard unders. And after a while, they just, they earned the turn.
This is fun. You got all the tall guys kind of eyeing each other. Freystatter, Fairley, Polk, Frood, Mickle, and Emmons all just kind of walking to the deep space. We all know what's coming here.
Right. It's funny though, right? The disc goes up and it just becomes a reading fest. Who's gonna adjust to the far side of the field quicker?
We saw 2 games end on buzzer beater throws last week. One at the end of overtime in Los Angeles. Another, I guess, not a buzzer beater, but a sudden death double overtime win for Madison over Indy. Just the end of the first quarter, but so much on the line tonight.
Let's take a look at this mark here. So the wind is pushing to that sideline. I'd almost rather give him the break to the middle.
Langdon throws it up high. He may have thrown it too far, and he did.
Rule number 1 is keep it in play, keep it in the end zone, especially when you're playing the big ball game that Jacksonville's playing. Just get it to the center of the end zone and let your guys do work.
Was there a foul? No, the clock stops when the disc goes out of bounds, so Dallas now has 1 second.
If only they had a guy who could throw it the full length of the field.
Mickle throws it off short, and Gibson not going to get it to the end zone. Frood tries to greatest it. I believe, despite the athleticism, this is not going to count for much. And 12 minutes in the book, certainly a great start for the Roughnecks. They jumped out 3-0, but the Cannons have bounced back. And after 12 here in Dallas, it's 5-3, the Roughnecks with an early lead. To have you with us from the Colony on a steamy Saturday night in Dallas, Texas. Evan Lepler, Chuck Kindred, great to be with you. 5-3, the Roughnecks lead, the Cannons at the end of 1. Quickly, let's run down the rest of the AUDL playoff schedule. This is the only postseason game of the weekend. Next weekend, you've got the Midwest Wild Card game, Minnesota and Pittsburgh. The Wind Chill will host that game next Friday night. And then the following weekend, Chuck, is when everything really ramps up. There'll be 6 playoff games that weekend. On Friday night, Montreal at DC in the East Division. And then on Saturday, you'll have the final in the South Division, the final in the Midwest Division, and obviously the West Division will play that weekend as well, Saturday and Sunday. And Toronto will host the Breeze Royale Survivor on Sunday, August 13th. Obviously, we're all marching toward Montreal Championship Weekend, August 26th and 27th. Log on to the AUDL.com for the entire playoff schedule. What in your mind do you think you would have talked about in the huddle with the Cannons in between quarters there if you were coaching Jacksonville?
Well, I mean, I would just say, look, Dallas has talent. you know, they're not going to be an easy win, obviously, but they look a little shaky. They look a little nervous. All the pressure's on them. I think they're feeling the pressure. I don't think Kurt's at 100%, and there's no reason to think Jacksonville can't come out here and just do what they do, which is beat up other teams, like win all the high disc, you know, intimidate on the mark, intimidate downfield with their athleticism. They're faster, they're bigger, they're stronger. They really don't have much to worry about. They got to stay busy. They got to get to the end zone here. But if I'm Jacksonville, I'm feeling all right.
Freechild marking Roney. There's Catron, chased by Frood. Back to Sullivan with Dalton Smith on the mark. Huston launches a laser, and that will not be caught. Jacksonville Cannons deciding not to activate Brody Smith, who is here. Was out on the field throwing early with his buddy Kurt Gibson, who plays on the Roughnecks, of course. Not too many sports where you see guys warming up with teammates from the other team pregame. Brody Smith feeling good, but not active tonight for Jacksonville. Of course, he hasn't played all year in the AUDL. That just barely kept up. And now the referee comes in late and says it was down.
What just happened? Freechild just disregarded him.
And Freechild went to him and said, no, it was up.
Last time I checked, I think the referees get to make those calls.
I think Freechild may have said that Jacksonville had acknowledged that it was up.
Ah, that would make sense.
That's the only explanation that would make sense.
Do they, still though, do they have the authority to call a disc up? Is that one of the...
I think a player has the right to basically dictate the game unless there is a dispute. Now, the referees can't activate a call whenever they see it, but at any point the player can say, look, I saw it this way, and give the benefit of the doubt to the opponent. That's part of the integrity rule.
That makes sense. I'm kind of glad that's in there. I assumed integrity rule only counted for, you know, for fouls and that sort of thing.
Roney floats this one up. Sullivan reads it well. Sullivan gets his mark to lay out, gets the quick reset. More than 2 minutes off the clock. On the second effort, Huston will keep it alive. Had to go out of the end zone to do it, but he will overshoot Cole Sullivan. And just a very shaky red zone trip there for the Cannons.
It's true. I mean, they're throwing these hard outside-in angles with the wind kicking the disc. Certainly to throw you can make, but it's such a low percentage option. You know, why not reset? Why not wait for something to open up that you can throw a flat throw to?
Dallas the other way. Lewis for Chris Larberg. Dalton Smith. Dylan Larberg, a deep reset, and then Freechild elevates. Dallas storms down the field after the Cannons missed the opportunity, and it's 6-3 Roughnecks. That's a big swing.
It is, and I think what you're seeing is Jacksonville missing Bobby Lay. I mean, there's a couple situations where certainly he would have had the disc in his hands, and certainly you expect him to make the right decision. And not that these weren't the right decisions, but he's the guy who's high percentage, who's going to always be looking to make the right throw in the right wind and make these receivers look good. It's not, I mean, it kind of gives you a real appreciation for how good he is. Same receivers, but for some reason Jordan didn't score on that point.
Dallas able to punch it down the field. Dylan Freechild, you know, he's played more offense for the Roughnecks this year than he did last year. But when he can be that main quarterback initiator for the D-line, it seems to really energize this Dallas team.
Yeah, he plays with a ton of energy, and when he's able to get rolling, I mean, he's he's easily one of those top 2 or 3 players in the world as far as just being able to have his way out there in every facet of the game. He's a momentum guy, though. So certainly if you get in his head, if if you get a matchup that's a little advantageous, he's a guy that can be beat.
That was certainly one of my biggest takeaways from the World Games, and more so from watching the USA team practice, as the Cannons with a clean 0-point, able to punch it in downfield. But the point is, Freechild has certainly ascended from being on the fringe of the best player in the world conversation to being in the forefront of that conversation.
Yeah, when I first started watching Dylan Freechild, it was when he was in college at Oregon.
Yep.
And one of the memories that's really imprinted in my mind was he in the semis with the Oregon Ducks playing against Tyler DiGirolamo.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Star. And Tyler had his way. And, according to the MVP votes, Dylan should have had his way, but it really wasn't close. So I never knew what to make of that, because you see him do so many great things, and then you're like, so what does that mean? Does that mean he's not that good? Does that mean Tyler's on a whole nother level from all other humans? Or, I didn't know what to make of that. But I think Dylan's really kind of grown up, and a lot of his challenges, honestly, are between his ears. As soon as he gets his head right, good luck with that.
I think he has made strides. I think you make a lot of good points. I think it's also important to remember it's a team game. Pittsburgh also had Alex and Max Thorne and Pat Earls and Marcus Ray-and-I Dropcho, and you could go on.
It's true. It's true.
Trent Dillon.
Well, it makes you wonder. That's a really great point. It makes you wonder, is Jordan Huston as good as his stats say he is, or is he just playing with one of the greatest setup guys in the league?
Gibson looking for Freechild. He's got him. He beats Kerner deep. And Freechild finds Coffin for the goal. But Freechild won that Callahan Award as a junior. And then he still had 2 more years of college ultimate. Think about the mentality of most college kids. Think about your maturity when you were in college. To have every player in college ultimate know who you are and still have 2 more full years. Guys usually gain hype late in their careers. It's different for what Dylan's had to deal with, obviously.
It's true. He's our Justin Bieber is really what it is. So he's a guy, we've asked him to grow up and be a focal point since he was virtually in diapers.
Well, he still has a Justin Bieber backpack. If you log on and check out my Twitter, you'll see Dylan's World Games gold medal framed right in front of his Justin Bieber backpack. It was actually one of my finest photos ever, if I have to say so myself.
Wow.
I haven't taken many good photos. It's mostly the point.
That's mainly the takeaway, folks.
Second goal for Abe Coffin.
Wow, they're doing a great job of keeping Langdon under. Threatening the help deep and just playing that even D underneath, making him come under and collect his unders. He's a guy, I would think you'd want him to have the disc under, speaking of which.
Out of the reach of Langdon.
I like that look. It's hard to hit. The wind is actually accelerating that disc the longer it sits up there. So very, very difficult throw, but certainly a throw you have to take there. But Langdon, a guy, when you push him under, it's not that he's a bad thrower, but he's a great receiver. He is a great goal scorer.
Yep.
So defense a lot of times is about picking what you're going to give the offense. And with him, you just don't want to give him deep looks.
Langdon had 59 goals in the regular season this year. And he only played in 10 games.
That's pretty incredible.
Well, so far, Dallas's D-line efficiency has been pretty incredible. And that has been the biggest difference so far here tonight, along with Jacksonville's offense not able to deal with this wind like they did 3 weeks ago. Oh, goodness. That was just a flub out of the hands of Bennett. Happens to the best of us. Jacksonville will take over just across midfield. This is Langdon in the under to LaRocque. Looked off Jordan Huston, who has not scored yet here in this playoff game in Dallas. And Jay Frood makes sure Huston still won't find the end zone. What a bid from Frood.
And what a great signing for Dallas this year. They saw something they liked. He's been doing it for years.
He's played every game for the Roughnecks this year, and you're absolutely right. There's a timeout called by the Roughnecks. Jay Frood in 14 games finished third in the AUDL in Ds with 29, and he was 8th in the league in plus minus at plus 74. Just an incredible regular season for Frood, making plays like this near the goal line.
Yeah, just such great athleticism, great hunger for the disc, and tied for first place in the AUDL for brightest smile. Just one of those Matt Bennett, Jay Frood, one of those smiles that makes you feel good about your life, makes you think, hey, maybe I'm doing the right thing over here.
You've given this a lot of thought, I can tell.
I have. I do a whole affirmation series, and don't tell, I don't know if anybody who knows Jay is watching, but please don't let it get back to him. But yeah, I use a picture of Jay Frood smiling in the morning to get me going, saying, hey, all right.
I don't think you're the only one.
Well, reach out, guys, at ChuckDownNow. If there's dozens of us, let's get together. Let's spread the lore.
Frood and Brandon Malachek were the only guys that played all 14 games this year for the Roughnecks. Dalton Smith, Abe Coffin, Jason Holleran each played 13. 6 other guys played 12. The Cannons had 9 different guys that played 13 or 14 games. So basically half of Jacksonville's roster was solid, committed. And I really think that's a big reason why they doubled their wins from 5 to 10, and they're back in the playoffs like they were 2 years ago. Polk nearly had the under on Laurie, and now it's Mickle marked by Freystadter. And Mickle launches long. Thomas Slack using his speed to break away. Resets for Jackson. Mickle to Coffin for the goal. It's a third goal for Abe Coffin. And the skills of Jimmy Mickle certainly on display at that point.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe Jimmy Mickle sometimes. I mean, he's like that Mario character. He does everything great. You know, just a guy you can count on. So good with the disc, incredible size. It's really hard to pick out, like, you know, when we're talking about defenses, is choosing what you're going to let the guy do, right? I mean, I don't know what to tell you about Jimmy. Like, you're kind of in trouble regardless.
One of the reasons that Jacksonville beat Dallas twice this year is that Mickle did not have his best games against the Cannons. Jimmy had 11 turnovers in those 2 games. And Patrick Eberle, the coach of the Roughnecks, said the one thing that gets him into trouble sometimes is when he floats his hucks, and certainly he put that one out to space, read the defense well, and there wasn't a guy like Polk or Freystadter or St. John's nearby to D it up. It was just Slack all by himself.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I think, if anything, you know, if there's a weakness that you can exploit with Jimmy, it might be just, you know, Jacksonville's got a little bit of a mean streak. I don't think I'm telling any secret here. And they can be very intimidating to play against. And I'm not sure Jimmy likes getting roughed up. I'm not sure he likes real adversarial games.
Here's Kunze taking a shot, looking for Langdon. And the wind plus the pressure from Clutton forces the incompletion.
Yeah, such a tough read. I mean, you almost can't adjust right enough when a disc like that goes up. And I really think, you know, if I'm one of the coaches on Jacksonville, I'm telling these guys, you cannot throw outside and backhands down this sideline again. That's the 3rd one in a row that didn't work.
Kai Marshall's taking off. Marshall in the end zone for the Roughnecks.
And contrast the backhand huck to this end zone with some of the backhand shots to the other end zone. I mean, the wind is blowing away from your monitor. So when you throw this backhand huck, it's going to come down pretty true. It's going to come down quick. It's going to stay flat. If anything, it's going to turn over a little and drop even quicker. And when you throw the other way, it's just going to go higher and higher. It's going to accelerate. It's going to go faster downfield. It's also going to accelerate away from your receiver across the field. And that's just such a higher percentage shot. Lets Kai Marshall do what he does.
Nice throw from Casey Hogg, veteran out of the University of North Texas. Well, if you just joined us, the score is accurate. Jacksonville has 4 goals and about 20 minutes of ultimate. Cannons are without Bobby Lay, but that's not the only reason why their offense is struggling. Dallas has certainly turned up the intensity defensively. Sullivan wants Langdon, and Langdon again mistimed his jump, and one referee has ruled pass interference, and Langdon says no. Yeah, Langdon, I don't think wanted a foul there. I think he was concerned about landing on Chris Larberg.
Yeah, not Langdon's best stuff here. You can see the little bit of a collision, a little bit of a mistimed play.
These guys were teammates a year ago at this time.
Yeah, that's a pretty fun matchup to look at. But, you know, I mean, Langdon really cannot keep misplaying discs like that. They need him to be a workhorse. They need him to pull these in. That's a good shot from Cole Sullivan. That is the right shot, and it's not going to get much better than that. So if Langdon can't pull that one in, Jacksonville's in real trouble.
About 3.5 minutes remaining in this second quarter. They have added some time to the clock during the stoppage. So 3:44 to go in the quarter now, and you see Dylan Freechild doing what he does. Jacksonville tried to switch, and now they're all out of whack. This is Chris Larberg. I beg your pardon, that's Dylan. And he'll shoot another one long, looking for Lewis. A little too much.
Pretty good looking shot. I mean, I'm surprised he was able to overthrow him from there, but he put just enough on it. Again, you can see the contrast when you huck on that sideline. The disc sits pretty well and it comes down awfully quick. So the deep shots are a lot easier that way. In other words, the backhand here or the forehand going the other direction. You know what's not easy though?
A scuba into the wind on the goal line?
Not sure what Coach Tuba would say about that.
Freechild with a lefty backhander reset. Mazer over to Dylan Larberg. He'll shoot to the end zone, and a pick was called downfield. The question is, will the turnover stand? And this is going to actually be a gift for Dallas, I think, because the pick is going to allow them to retain possession of the disc 10 yards further away from the goal line.
So the next question about the integrity rule is, could Dallas say, you know what, your disc, we were going to throw that regardless, and it was a turnover?
That's a fair question.
I do not know how far you can go with that integrity rule.
Oh, Freechild tried to sneak it through to Frood, and that might be an example of just two guys that haven't developed the chemistry playing together as much as some other great players in this league.
Well, I think they also angered the Frisbee gods by getting that disc back for free. And the disc don't lie, folks. Wow, Dalton Smith against Langdon in the lane there. Pretty nice hips from Dalton.
Every completion for the Cannons has been a grind here in the first half. This is a team that has scored over 30 several times this year. And right now, they're not even halfway to 10. And there was certainly contact there. Tyler Kunsa shaken up. Sullivan will replace him.
Sullivan's playing all-time quarterback, I think.
They certainly want him out there on offense, but not as much on D, because in part of his back injury that has kept him from being 100%.
No doubt. Back injury is so difficult in ultimate. I mean, name a movement where you're not using your back.
How about that acrobatic crab walk from Dylan Larberg to try to get a hand block. There's Freystadter in the end zone for the Cannons, using every inch of his 6'8" frame. The towering presence out of UCF for the score.
That is a really nice read. And I'm seeing Bobby Lay step onto the field. Do my eyes deceive me? So Bobby made it. Hopefully he's in the right headspace to play. But look at this great catch from Misha. He uses his size so well, and he never takes his eye off the disc. He basically knows if you're that size, if you're 6'8", and you've got good reach, you know you have the advantage. So you know essentially if I read the disc correctly, I will catch the disc. I don't need to pay attention to my defenders. I don't need any trickery. I'm the big dog, you know. And he does such a good job of making sure that doesn't get over his head. I'm going to read it right. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to give myself the opportunity to lay out if needed. And he's done it twice now.
By the way, Chuck, you're absolutely right. Bobby Lay is here, and he's in uniform. And we'll see if that makes a difference for the Cannons. Final minute of the first half. Mickles' big rip, and Slack is there.
Just an awesome rip from Jimmy Mickle. And I mean, throwing a disc in this wind that goes up into the upwind half of the field and then tails off to the middle of the end zone, that's essentially like throwing a 100-yarder in a normal wind. There's not too many guys who can hit this throw, and Jimmy Mickle's one of them. He just absolutely drills this shot.
That's a USA national team type throw.
No joke. I mean, this guy, yeah, he really is on another level, and he's a guy who's athletically so hard to deal with, but, I mean, his best stuff might be with the disc. I mean, if we're really being honest, he's great in the air. He's a great cutter and all that, great defender, but the stuff that he does that I've never seen anyone else, you know, that I can't imagine trying to replace is with the disc.
And there is Bobby Lay, the young man out of the University of Florida, who again missed the first 15 points of this game, more or less, because he had to attend the funeral of a close family friend earlier today. Sullivan rips it.
And if you're on the field, you might as well run after this.
Langdon trying to adjust, and tremendous defense there. That's Joel Clutton doing work deep on Langdon.
Man, Clutton looks really good on the high stuff, doesn't he? That's the second one he's clearly won.
He's had a good first half, and Dallas will take its final timeout of the half. A chance to stretch the lead to 6 with about 10 seconds on the clock. I don't know, Chuck. I don't know if you look at this like Jacksonville has been taught a lesson in this first half, or should they feel fortunate to only be down by 5? You know, Dallas overcame a 7-goal lead the last time these two teams met.
Well, from what I know about Dallas, if they were being taught a lesson, they did not learn the lesson, all right? Jacksonville's not listening to what you're telling them. They're not absorbing any feedback about, you know, if you think you're better than them or whatever. You know, these guys are going to come out and punch you in the mouth at the beginning of the second half the same way they always do. And let me tell you something else. After watching that meltdown at the end of the last game between these two teams, if you're Dallas, you do not want to be in a close game at the end of the fourth quarter, okay? There's no reason to think you're going to win that game. Mentally, they have the edge over you. You need to keep the margin where it is and maybe even grow this lead if you're Dallas to be comfortable in the fourth quarter.
Roughnecks have 9.5 seconds on the clock. It's easy to spot Dylan Freechild out there, looking like Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter.
We were all thinking it. Wait, who?
You're not a Harry Potter guy?
No, I'm an adult.
That's too bad, man.
I read grown-up stuff.
Gibson and Mickle right around the disc here. Freystadter lingering deep on Kai Marshall, who's had several big catches late in quarters in his 2 seasons with Dallas.
I love Kurt Gibson, by the way. I feel like he's always frustrated with everybody downfield, no matter what's happening.
Freechild was hit from behind.
Ooh.
And with a 1/10 of a second on the clock. But there's no foul, I don't believe. I think they called a timeout for Jacksonville. The Cannons taking the timeout after Freechild played through the contact from behind, no call.
Yeah, I'd love to see that again. I felt like it was probably a good no call. Not a great throw. Looked like it might have gotten over Dylan's hand.
Here it is.
So let's take a look here. So as you can see right there, folks. Just kidding. I think he misplayed it. I mean, that's what I saw. Certainly there's contact, but it's a question of whether is that why he didn't make the catch or not. I'm not so sure that's why.
So they've added a 1.5 seconds to the clock. So this is basically throw to the end zone, maybe one quick throw and release. But
oh, it's Bobby Lay time is what I'm seeing. When I look at the clock, I see Bobby Lay time.
Hard to tell.
So here's a shot. Kind of a lazy upwind throw. Yeah, I don't want to see a foul called there. Well played in the air, went straight up. You know, Dylan's backing up and jumping backwards. It's a tough one.
So Roney will initiate. And everyone else from Jacksonville is in the end zone.
Double team on the mark and hero ball. So I was wrong, no Bobby Lay.
6 on 5 in the end zone. Dallas has the numbers. Jacksonville has the numbers.
Man, that upwind corner is looking pretty good.
Hammer looking for Freystadter near the front pylon. He's got it! The Cannons boom their way into the half. Roney to Freystadter at the buzzer.
Oh my goodness. Look, you're double team. You got a double team and you're leaving Freystadter with a step to the open side, the downwind side. I'm just going to call it the open side because that's what it is in a win like this. I don't know how that's, as a defense, how can you let him have a step to the open side? That is a huge oversight by Dallas.
Well, the first quarter and second quarter, same exact score. 5-3 in the first, 5-3 in the second. 10-6 Dallas at the half, but the Cannons with some momentum at the finish line as Freystadter with another emphatic score. Halftime here in Dallas in the AUDL playoffs.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that when it comes to cancer can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
Welcome back to the Colony. The Dallas Roughnecks leading Jacksonville 10-6. A pretty thrilling finish to that first half. And for the first time today, we welcome you up to our platform broadcast location. It is hot, it is breezy. He's Chuck Kindred, I am Evan Lepler. And do you think that last play could really change the momentum of this game?
Oh, no doubt. I think Jacksonville just needs a spark. They're a team that's ready to win this at the end of the game. They're not gonna pull away and blow this team out. They knew that. They're just trying to keep it close. They got Bobby Lay in uniform ready to play, and they just won a kind of a boneheaded play by Dallas. They can't let that look up. So I think momentum-wise, that's a big one for Jacksonville.
In that first half, certainly the Cannons didn't play their best. Do they feel pretty good to be within 4?
I would. I mean, the thing about the 4-point lead is it's windy and it's just hard to score. You know, it's not going to be as high a scoring game as it would be if this were a pristine day. But this is nothing Jacksonville can't do. And I'm just a huge fan of this team. I mean, they always scrap and just claw their way back. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do it again and make it close.
Obviously, this is round 1 of the AUDL playoffs. Winner of this game takes on the Raleigh Flyers. Dallas went 1-1 this year against Raleigh, while Jacksonville went 0-4. How do these teams match up with Raleigh in your mind in 2 weeks?
Terribly, I'd say. I mean, I think Raleigh is probably getting out of the South. You heard it here first if you didn't already know. So either of these teams can battle, I think, with Raleigh, but Raleigh seems like they're on another level. They've got incredible depth. They're not beating themselves, and they've got a guy at the helm that I just think is really unguardable.
Talking about Jonathan Nethercutt.
Talking about Jonathan Nethercutt, man. Good luck with that. And in this kind of win, you'll see the next level of throwing. I mean, we saw it last year. The North Carolina club team pulled a huge upset in quarters, knocked out the DC club team, and the guy who was throwing comfortably in that win, there was only one, and it was Jonathan Nethercutt.
This probably won't surprise you too much, but at the end of the season, you look at the AUDL statistics, and the category of plus-minus, goals plus assists plus Ds minus turnovers, basically. Receivers have an advantage in that stat over throwers because throwers have more of a chance to turn it over. Among the top 25 guys in plus-minus at the end of the year, there are only 3 that had more assists than goals. So think about that. Almost everyone in the top 25 had more goals than assists. The 3 who had more assists than goals, or 3 of your favorites, I think, in the league, Seattle's Mark Burton, San Francisco's Cassidy Rasmussen, and Raleigh's Jonathan Nethercutt.
Wow, I wouldn't have put Cassidy in that group. It makes sense. I mean, he's so dangerous with the disc. But, yeah, isn't it funny to see Mark Burton flip from being primarily a goal catcher to this year? It just seems like, just for good measure, just so you guys know, it reminds me of Barry Bonds when he hit 73 home runs. He's just like, look, just so you know, I could be the greatest home run hitter ever as well, in case you were wondering. I mean, Mark Burton, I don't know how to quantify that guy's talent.
Well, Jonathan Nethercutt and the Raleigh Flyers awaiting the winner of this one. Dallas up by 4 at the half. Week 17 of the AUDL season. Last weekend, some spectacular plays, a couple of buzzer beaters that are worth reviewing. Top 10 plays of Week 17 coming up as we continue here at the half in Dallas.
Jimmy Kittleson gets the D, bookends with the score. Not the perfect throw, but the perfect catch.
Peterson cutting on Lay. Round to Kunza, and Peterson with the interception to Jackson for the break.
Dallas putting pressure on the resets and baiting Jacksonville into throwing pucks with guys helping over the top.
Certainly a momentum booster for the Roughnecks.
You see their team charge the field afterwards. They are looking to light the fire as best they can.
Tuba Benson-Jaja, the third-year head coach of the Jacksonville Cannons, just with an emotional and powerful pep talk. He was fired up. We'll see if his team can replicate the energy as we start the second half here in Dallas. 10-6 is your score. The Roughnecks in front. This is the first of 11 AUDL playoff games that we'll have over the next month, leading up to championship weekend in Montreal. The South in the top left of your screen, Raleigh at 13-1, best record in the league. The West Division, all's happening in 2 weeks in the Bay Area. San Jose and LA battling for the right to face San Francisco, the top seed out west. Next Friday night, you'll see Minnesota and Pittsburgh go head-to-head. It's the rubber match for those two teams. Remember, they split during the regular season. Madison, the perennial Midwest champ, awaiting the winner. That game will be 2 weeks from tonight on the 11 Sports Network. And then Toronto awaits DC or Montreal.
I want to see Tyler DiGirolamo and Brian Schoenrock in that Pittsburgh-Minnesota game going deep against each other once or twice.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, for my money, that's what I want to see. I know I'm just a fan here.
I don't think anyone would fault you for saying you think the number one seeds are going to advance to Montreal. Which non-number one do you think is most likely to knock off a top seed? Which number one is most vulnerable in their divisional playoff in your mind?
That's a great question. I feel like Toronto's a little vulny, although they're so good at home. I said vulny because I play bridge. I'm not sure. What do you think?
It's a really tough question.
Probably Raleigh. I mean, I hate to say that, but Dallas is the defending champ, and if Kirk Gibson gets back near 100, and you've got Jimmy Mickle and Dylan Freechild, Colin Camp, like, you've got the tools to win one game.
Yeah, I probably, with a gun in my head, would say Raleigh. And with that said, I think if Raleigh makes it to Montreal, they'll be the favorite.
Oh, yeah. Isn't it crazy? I mean, we're covering right now, tonight, we're covering what has become. I mean, it was an expansion division a couple years ago. Now this is prime time. This is the best ultimate being played.
Jacksonville with 4 losses this year, all to the number one team. Mickle shoots it for Gibson, and Kurt has his first goal of the day.
So seeing Misha Freystadter marking Kurt Gibson, Kurt does the right thing. You know, become a runner here. Nothing against Misha, but he's 6'8". You know, that's a foot race that can be won, especially by one of the fastest guys in the sport.
Took just 34 seconds for Gibson to go downfield and Mickle to find him.
And watch the touch here from Mickle. So the wind's kicking hard to the left on the screen right now, so he throws it really, really high, really high and outside in. Almost can't throw that high enough, but gives Kurt enough time to get there, get under it, and clap catch it.
Of course, Kurt Gibson was supposed to be on that USA World Games team, but if the injury sidelined him, he said that after he saw the bleached hair, he was a little glad he didn't make the team. I think he meant it in jest. No one had more scores, goals, or assists on Team USA than Jimmy Mickle. He had 14 combined scores. Dylan Freechild was number 2 with Grant Lindsley with 13. And how about this? Huston was coming in, the throw went up, and that's a bad turnover.
Yeah, and Joel Clutton, I can't say enough about this guy's defense. I mean, just absolutely shut down Langdon in the lane, made it very difficult to even collect an under, and I think the pressure he applied on those cuts made Jeremy panic with the disc and make a terrible throw. I think Clutton's having a big impact.
And he's another guy that was not on Dallas last year. I mean, in that Jay, Frood, Abe Coffin conversation, Clutton came over from Austin to Dallas 2017. Out of the University of Texas, and he has been a game changer, especially late in the season when he's gotten healthy. In the regular season, Clutton only played 4 games. But we have seen how guys who may not play a ton during the season can make an impact late in the year. Remember what Nick Stewart did for Seattle a year ago. Timeout called by Dallas. Freechild had nowhere to go.
Yeah, you know, and speaking of stuff like that, it's you know, I'm watching Brody Smith walk out onto the field. He is not active tonight, but probably not by his choice. And when you think about a game with a ton of wind where people are really struggling to hit throws in the wind, you know, and then you think back to, well, who do we have on the roster that we could get who could throw literally any throw in any wind? None other than Brody Smith, Mr. Trick Shot. Can throw it over a ravine, can throw it to a boat, can throw a Frisbee through a basketball hoop from like 100 feet in the air. He's a guy who can kind of redefine the laws of physics in windy situations like this one. I saw him do it in Sarasota.
He's been training very, very hard here in Dallas. Certainly a very popular face in the sport of ultimate for all he has done. And
yeah,
he's just so eager to get back on the field.
He is. I mean, he's a guy who just loves the game, loves the disc. And his power, I mean, his power is kind of on the same level as Dylan Tunnell in Atlanta. You know, a guy who can make some throws in windy situations that don't seem possible. I guess you could throw Jimmy Mickle in that same conversation. Flicks against a crosswind that somehow sit up nice and flat. I mean, there's only a few guys that can do that kind of stuff. One of them's got the disc right now.
Mickle hits Malachek. Dallas's O-line, and it hasn't been the same 7 guys every week, that's for sure, but this O-line tonight has been very efficient, and Gibson got hit by Freysdotter.
That was interesting. Couldn't see.
Oh, and Gibson with a left hand over the shoulder to Mickle.
I think Gibson's just getting motivated right now. Love to see that contact again. It was hard to see if Kurt slipped. I didn't see what happened. He made it look like he got decked.
Certainly some chirping after the contact. And that's pretty impossible to stop right there.
Yeah, nice throw. Kurt, always unhappy. Always playing with that general kind of, what the heck are you doing for his teammates, for his opponents? What the heck are you doing over there? Clear out. I'm about to throw to that space. What are you doing? The reset should be back here. What are you doing on the left side of the field? Get over to the right side of the field. I think it's just kind of his. When he's doing that, I mean, from what I've seen, when he's doing that, you're looking good. He's locked in. He's a little agitated. He's probably about to score a bunch of goals.
This is Bobby Lay. Jacksonville's going to need him to have a big second half. could say the same about Jordan Huston, who had 80 goals in the regular season. Third most that anyone has ever had in a season in the league, and he has not scored yet tonight.
Who's got the record? Misha had it a couple years ago, right? But that, I believe that got broken. Wow.
I believe it is Misha.
Is it still Misha? Okay.
Contact called on the mark. Referee said no disc space.
So I think, you know, I mean, it's getting a little chippy, right? And I think one guy that responds relatively well to that is Kurt Gibson. But I think in general, as far as a team,
oh,
wow.
Frood got a piece of that. Katrin able to handle it off the slight ricochet.
Incredible focus by Katrin.
And with the stall count rising, Bobby Lay keeps the disc alive.
And that's what I'm talking about. Bobby Lay so confident.
Lay slicing it through the wind, and finally Langdon has the goal.
This is what we were missing. I mean, we were saying that they looked kind of tentative. They were turning the disc over. They weren't valuing the disc. You know, there's a little talk on Twitter about that. And then you watch Bobby Lay come in and just turn lemons into lemonade. Horrible, horrible throw. I mean, you know, about to be stalled. Throw it up, give your guy a chance. Bobby Lay skies two guys. Bobby Lay, how tall is Bobby? Like 4'11". He skies two guys, gets the disc.
He's a little taller than that.
Throws the around flick that he loves so much with the wind, and somehow drops it right into the corner for Langdon. I mean, that's the magic we're talking about, and I'm starting to wonder if he might be even more critical to the success of Jacksonville than we initially suspected.
Bobby Lay with another assist, but his first of the night. Just finished up grad school. He'll be walking next week. The schedule worked out perfectly, so he could play in 2 playoff games if they're able to win tonight and not miss his grad school graduation. Dallas on offense.
So they're junking it here, trying to force Dallas down into that far sideline to the downwind side of the field. Muffin gets it around, and Dallas doing a good job of not getting trapped. I mean, essentially, Jacksonville's trying to trap them on the far sideline. Dallas doing the right thing, not swinging it all the way to the far side of the field yet.
Big gainer from Malachek to Slack. And Jackson looking big, and that'll get taken away by Cole Sullivan. He's feeling all right on defense. Well enough to do that.
He looks dangerous with the disc, that's for sure. Jacksonville's got to get the disc moving here. They don't want to get stalled out here in the other team's sweet spot.
Freystadter marked by Mickle.
Wow, what an around by Freystadter. Just realized how long he was and just makes it happen. But Jimmy Mickle essentially giving Freystadter the under. I think he's basically saying if you want to get the disc on the downwind side of the field on an under, then go right ahead. Because then you got a tough reset. You have to throw a break.
Paralis shoots it up, not really to anybody.
So you could see him bring that flick up, trying to elevate the flick, which actually is the right thing to do in this wind, but he doesn't get it all the way over. So it sits inside out and just sails out of bounds. If he gets the shape a little bit outside in, that actually might be a really nice throw.
It's the type of turnover, though. Each one of those really cripples Jacksonville's hopes.
And now they're looking for the trap on the upwind side of the field. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, they almost need Bobby in on the turn because these are not easy conversions if they get the block.
How about that hammer from Mickle to a wide open Slack? Now, who would have thought this guy Thomas Slack, who began the 2016 season on the Dallas practice squad, would be here, and Sullivan bumps into Gibson there. But Slack has grown so much, added to the team a few games into last year, and has earned a spot in the O-line. And Gibson hits Jackson for the goal.
Nice recognition by Dallas. They flood the open side. See that Jacksonville is playing a poach defense there. And Matt Jackson leaks for an easy one. Tough point for Jacksonville. I mean, they got what they wanted there. But it's just, this wind is, it's just very unpredictable. It's heavy and it's also gusting a bit, so you're not getting a consistent read. As a thrower and as a catcher, you just never know. I mean, you're timing it, you're getting ready, you're in position, and then all of a sudden it's a whole new world.
Dallas continues to methodically build this lead. This matching the largest lead of the game. Dallas on a 3-1 run to begin this third quarter. And this doesn't just have the feel of a game where you can come back quickly because the points are long and drawn out.
It's so hard to convert. I mean, on D, on the last point, Jacksonville got what they were looking for, just could not convert. And there's no reason to think that that won't be the story. They've got to prove that their D-line can score.
Lay marked by Freechild. And Lay lets it fly. Langdon plays through the whistle. There was a pick called. Langdon, pretty impressive hammer back downfield. Bobby Lay, a high school rower. And at one point, his high school rowing coach started to get angry with him because the team used to throw the Frisbee around for breaks to do some conditioning. And eventually, the coach went to him and said, Bobby, I think you like throwing the Frisbee more than you like rowing. And he said, you know what, Coach? Yes, that's true.
Great coaches make all the difference. That's what that is.
This is Roney shooting it for Huston. Peterson playing catch-up. And Peterson comes up with a D. There was contact, but there will not be a call.
I like the shot. And I like the D even better. Stanley Peterson closed quite a bit and gets up high. I mean, he had to, not only did he have to run top speed, he really needed to out-jump Huston. He did both. Really impressive D.
Peterson's been playing through a nagging shoulder injury. There's a Jacksonville cannon down on the field. And they will stop play. It's Langdon, who now has popped up.
Did not see the collision here, but they've been having some trouble cutting. There was a pick called on the last play. Langdon frustrated. I don't know if it's an offensive issue where they're cutting across each other or if it's a defensive strategy. I'm not sure what's going on, but certainly there's just not a lot of flow downfield from Jacksonville.
Dallas from its own end zone, and another whistle. A travel is called on Mazer. So this is going to push Dallas all the way to their back goal line.
So Mazer has to stand on the back of the line and throw left-handed, I believe. I'll have to double-check the rule.
This is Clutton to Freechild. Peterson.
Clutton deep.
Marshall holstered it. Contact against the offense downfield. Clutton and Langdon being physical.
So it looks like Clutton's given the shoulder to Langdon a bit. Not sure if we have a shot of what just happened, but that's the second time Langdon's wound up on the ground.
I think they called unsportsmanlike conduct, which is 20 yards instead of 10, and basically a card against Clutton.
Yeah, I've got a better idea. How about you give Jacksonville the disc?
This is Peterson on the under. Oh, that's a tough throw. Peterson runs it down. He's a step away from the end zone. Freechild. Waiting for a cutter. Swings it. Peterson around and into the end zone.
So, Dallas just scored, but as you can see, Jacksonville is getting fired up. And actually, that might be a good thing. Because if Jacksonville is going to win, they have to come back big. And the kind of game they play their best in is an adversarial game, a fiery game. And there's no doubt that Clutton, even though he's been effective, he's also ignited some controversy here. Great D from Stanley Peterson there. And this throw is bananas, by the way. What a difficult shot. So Dallas getting what they want here. They're winning the battle. The question is, does this put them ahead in the war?
Well, they're facing their largest deficit of the game as Marshall caught the goal from Peterson. And there's only 2:29 to go in the third.
Yeah, they've got some work to do. 7 goals is not a small margin.
Jacksonville was also assessed a misconduct foul for the argument after the goal, which allows Dallas to pull 20 yards in front of their end zone. Jacksonville standing on the back goal line at the other end of the field.
So Coach Tuba calling in his D-line. I mean, essentially, if they're coming back, the D-line's the one that's going to have to catch fire. So he's talking to his troops, let the O-line get out here, do their thing.
Roney has been a handler most of the game, initiates from downfield. Back to Lay.
These resets are so difficult.
And it's been a stiff breeze blowing basically across the field all night long. Lay lets it rip. Huston trailed by Larberg and Frood. Huston had it ripped away by Frood. Holy cow.
And that's a statement, D. I mean, that throw was perfect. And Huston read it perfectly, and it did not matter because Frood's faster, gets up higher, and he read it perfectly too.
This throw floating in a crowd. It's Sullivan who emerges. And contact called against Frood. That last D by Jay Frood, one of the greatest I think I've ever seen.
That was real pretty.
Down to 1:18 here in this third quarter. Jacksonville still with just 7 goals on the board. Lay looking for his second assist. Just off the outstretched reach of Langdon. I make it LaRock.
Such a tough throw. I mean, actually, that was perfectly executed. That's how hard of a throw that is. You throw it perfectly, and it's still about a 50-50.
Dallas looking to stretch the lead to 8.
Freechild with steps.
Frood sends it. Freechild breaking away from Huston. And Dallas breaking away from Jacksonville.
Freechild doing what he does. I mean, he's in flow right now. He's a guy that if he gets off track, he can really derail. But most of the time, and certainly when he's looking like this, where he's fired up, he's doing good, he's getting what he wants, throwing, catching, running, playing D. I mean, he becomes one of those just indomitable objects on the field. Always doing the right thing, tons and tons of energy. I mean, he's a guy who just ran the full length of the field, caught a goal, and then he's bouncing all over the place. He's flipping over signs. He's got just energy to burn.
Here's the D from Frood.
And
unreal.
Look at that. Comes from behind, reaches all the way around the receiver without fouling to make just a freaking boss D.
Unbelievable play from Frood. And then here's Freechild beginning the sprint. And remember earlier in the game, Freechild and Frood had the miscommunication around the goal line. This certainly makes amends. And Dillon gifts a souvenir to the loyal Dallas fans here at the Colony 5-Star Complex. Final 30 seconds of the third quarter. Feels like must score for Jacksonville. They will receive to start the fourth. Fairley with 18 seconds. Kunsa keeps it alive near the grass.
Man, and Clutton is just taking Langdon out of the game more or less. I mean, Langdon was the difference maker towards the end of the last game.
Bobby Lay with 4 seconds. Freystadter with 2. And Roney at the buzzer scores for Jacksonville. Second straight quarter that the Cannons strike with no time left on the clock. And perhaps this is the beginning of a monumental comeback. We shall see.
Man, Misha Freystadter at the end of a quarter is something else, isn't he? I mean, he just is in the moment, making the right decisions against tough D. Just catches this falling backwards, sets his feet, and makes a great throw just as time expires.
Yeah, how many guys in the AUDL in the same game throw a buzzer beater and catch a buzzer beater? It's not too many.
Not too many. And how many guys are 6'8" with a BMI of like 16 or something, right?
Misha Freystadter with the assist for Jacksonville. 3 quarters down and 1 to go. Raleigh awaiting the winner. Dallas by 7 as we head to the 4th.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
Well, the Jacksonville Cannons trailing Dallas 15-8 as we head to the 4th. Misha Freystadter with the assist at the buzzer at the end of the 3rd. It's been a big, busy month of July for Misha Freystadter. Chuck, have you ever heard of the World Wife Carrying Championships?
No.
Misha Freystadter is a silver medalist.
The World Wife Carrying.
He traveled to Finland, where his mother is from, earlier this month, and after winning a wife carrying race in the United States earlier this spring, he went to Finland and finished in 2nd place, he and his wife, at the World Wife Carrying Championships.
So is it speed?
Yes.
So
Racing through obstacles.
Racing through obstacles with a very trusting wife on your shoulder.
And I believe with all my heart this is true. The grand prize, if you win the World Wife Carrying Championships, you get the amount of beer that is your wife's weight. That's a fact.
Oh my goodness.
So get cracking.
Hashtag gender equity. Probably a step in the wrong direction, but impressive nonetheless.
There's a press release. Misha Freystadter winning internationally in other bizarre sports. Tyler Kunsa with the disc for the Cannons. Back to Chris LaRock and Lay with not much space to spare on the sideline. In the break, Chuck, we heard Jakeem Polk sending a message to his guys in the Jacksonville huddle.
Yeah, he just said, enough talk, action. And he's right. I mean, he brings a kind of a football mentality. Speaking of football, looked like a tackle.
Certainly was some contact, perhaps incidental, perhaps not, but Jacksonville will keep the disc. The foul near the goal line. Cannons don't have a lot of time to dilly-dally here.
That's true. Walking to the center as the clock ticks down may not be in your best interest.
Oh, goodness. Langdon can't believe what he just did.
Langdon having a terrible game. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that he was just losing his matchup with Joel Clutton for most of the first 3 quarters.
Frood continues for Slack. To Bennett. Matt Bennett launching. Frood versus Katrin. Jay Frood does it again.
Man, what a read, and then what great speed. Able to make that last second adjustment and then run onto the disc. Didn't even have to go up one hand. I mean, you kind of don't realize how fast Jay Frood is. This disc goes up. It's essentially a throw to a matchup. He's got steps, but with this wind, you can't really make a precise throw. But he says, I'll take Frood, even against a gigantic defender like Katrin. Jay Frood putting his stamp on this game, that's to be sure. One of the great Ds of the season in that 3rd quarter. And now just running away with it to the end zone.
These Dallas Roughnecks looking strong after going 14-0 last year in the regular season and steamrolling through the playoffs. 11-3 this year. You know, last year, Chuck, they had 8 of their 14 wins by double digits. Totally different mode to this season. Only had 3 wins, only 2 wins by double digits this year. Goal differential not nearly what it was a year ago. And yet, they're 10 minutes away from being right back in the South Division title game. LaRock and Lay playing catch.
Just great pressure from Dallas. I'm so impressed.
All game long. Jacksonville fights through it. Sullivan in the end zone for the Cannons, and Bobby Lay claps his hands, hoping the D-line can make something happen.
Yeah, just nothing easy. I mean, that's the problem. Nothing is easy for Jacksonville. And that's always a function of defense. There's no mystery why resets are hard, why you're seeing guys a little more nervous, second-guessing their throws, second-guessing their cuts. You know, guys like Langdon just kind of in their head, clearly frustrated. But great patience from Jacksonville. I mean, they push through all that pressure and still get the look they want on that tiny little sliver of field they were playing on.
Well, certainly Jacksonville has basically had its way in terms of scoring goals, both against Dallas and throughout the season, and just not having the same ease of offense tonight. Dallas centers for Kurt Gibson. Two-time AUDL champion. Gibson won in 2014 with the San Jose Spiders. There's Jimmy Mickle launching. Ben Laurie floating to the end zone, but Freystadter makes up the distance, and then he's called for the foul, and then the integrity rule will overturn it.
That's the right call, yeah. I don't understand that foul call. Well, obviously it was overturned, but what did he see?
Freystadter did land on Laurie. Is that not a foul in your mind?
I guess I missed it. Looked like 2 guys went for the disc.
Looking deep the other way. Polk trying to go over Jackson. And Matt Jackson comes up with a plastic first.
Great read by Jackson. So again, we're looking at that throw. It's kind of pushing to the downwind side, so it drops a little faster than you would think. So here's the replay. Collision afterwards, I guess. So not that bad of a call. I think it's the right integrity overrule there.
That's a stall. Gibson held on for a split second too long.
He's been playing with fire with that stall count for a while now. And a foul on the mark. Jacksonville will center the disc. And chance to get a little bit of momentum here in the 4th quarter.
Dustin Travaglini. Resets. Chris Gibson. Not much movement here from this Jacksonville D-line offense. And finally, Freistadter comes free. Misha with the bookends. The Cannons are within 6.
You know, and Misha on that deep defensive play showed some really incredible speed. I mean, you think about it, this guy's 6'8", and that was a good throw that didn't actually float that long. And Freistadter runs it all the way down, has been making all the big plays they've needed him to make, and goes ahead and catches the goal as well. But man, it is tough going in the red zone for Jacksonville with that defensive line trying to score on offense after the turn. I mean, it's almost time to start burning timeouts and bringing in Bobby Lay just to score. You got to score. You can't afford to turn it over there, and they very nearly turned it over.
Here's the thing. You need 6 breaks to get back into this. You don't have 6 timeouts. So unless Lay's going to start playing every D point too.
Right.
He is out here on this particular D point for the Cannons.
I like it. I like it. He's the first guy down in the pool too.
Lay racing into your screen to mark Kurt Gibson. Abe Coffin. Gibson.
So Jakeem Polk needs to stay under on Jackson there. Can't allow that easy reset.
Mickle for Coffin. And now Gibson, not where he started the point, but now he's downfield, wide open on the under.
Yeah, he is a handful for sure. Get him out in space. Get him the disc.
Freechild over to Gibson. His college teammate Dustin Travaglini on the mark.
That's an upwind scoober, folks.
And now Mickle slicing the flick to the end zone for Freechild. Those are the Bleach Boys connecting for the Roughnecks goal.
Yeah, and you just saw 3 of the best players in the history of U.S. Ultimate. Kurt Gibson throwing the scoober over the top upwind like it's nothing. Dylan Freechild getting open. So here's the double team. Gibson, that's upwind. Makes it look so easy to Jimmy Mickle. Freechild's open, and Mickle just throws a blade across the whole stack like it's nothing. It's pretty fun to watch this caliber of player out here. I mean, in this huge field in front of the crowd, 3 of the all-time greats.
Yeah, no question. And all 3 of them have had good games. We'd like to know who you think should be the AUDL MVP for 2017. You can let us know on Twitter at the AUDL, at Chucktown Now, and at Evan Lepler. Under 6.5 minutes to go. Jacksonville trailing by a touchdown. Roney at midfield, lets it fly.
I like it.
Fairley is there. That's the quick score they need.
It is, and I don't know why they're giving Fairley steps deep. He's got great size. He's not overwhelming with his speed. You can't front him. You just can't front him. That's the one thing he's got as a real differentiator is the over-the-top stuff that doesn't require a foot race. I mean, you're giving him this goal. I don't understand that. That was open for several throws. I was waiting for someone to hit it.
Another assist for Andrew Roney. And again, Jacksonville will try to stack its D-line a little bit here. Freistadter and Polk both out there. Bradley St. Johns, who's had a good year defensively for the Cannons. He's been quiet so far tonight. Travaglini uncorks the backhand pull. Malachek, Coffin, and Gibson. Slack, Mickle, Laurie, and Jackson. Basically a downfield zipper play with Laurie going to one side, Jackson coming to the near side, and open in the middle for Mickle. Coffin. Oh, what a catch. Ben Laurie, full extension to keep things alive. When that disc was released, it didn't look like Laurie had a chance.
Looked like a throwaway, yeah.
Mickle looking Coffin's way. Another dime from Jimmy Mickle.
That is a big boy throw. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I was lauding Bobby Lay for being able to throw, except gross it up to about 1.5 times the power. This is a crazy throw. Watch his feet. Hardly even set. He's kind of up on his toes and just drops this in here. I mean, there's a lot of wind right now. You can't tell if you're watching at home. That is a very difficult throw. That could have just as easily rolled to the end zone as arrived the way it did.
You know who that reminded me of?
Who's that?
Remind me of you on the beach. That little high release flick.
It's so much easier than bending your knees. 'Cause I don't know if you're a kinesiologist or not, but you have to use a lot of strength to step out and bend your knees. So if you're looking for easy goals, might I suggest high release flicks.
It's a great pull by Chris Mazer. Backhand sailed about 85 yards. Roney badgered by Clutton. Needs someone. And a laser intended for Lay, incomplete. Dallas looking to counter, and Mazer's shot for Emmons did not have enough.
Yeah, so really, if you're Dallas and you get the disc, hang on to the disc. No reason to take a quick shot.
Seems pretty simple. You're up by 7 with about 5 minutes to go.
100%. The only way you can lose is by getting Jacksonville the ball over and over again, quickly. Dylan Freechild trying to lock down Bobby Lay. I mean, they really want him to have the disc, and it's been difficult.
Lay lets a backhand go. Fairly, does he have the legs? Not like Dan Emmons, or Kai Marshall, beg your pardon. That's Marshall just accelerating past Fairley.
Well, and there you see Fairley very, very good in the air, not great speed. And you saw it right there. You just want to get it up and out in front of him and leave it on a shelf. I'm not saying Bobby Lay from that distance has that much control. No one does, but Fairley is overwhelming when it sits up for a while.
Precious seconds ticking away from the Roughnecks. Travel called against Hogg, so he'll retreat 10 yards. It's looking more and more like Raleigh and Dallas Part 3 2 weeks from now. Mazer to Clutton.
So if you're Dallas, just possess the disc. Keep resetting, always throw to the open guy. Nothing high risk needed. You don't need to add your score. You just need to hang on to the disc.
Emmons looking for the assist, and he's got his man. The lead back to 8 as Peterson gets open for the Roughnecks break.
And that's a backbreaker. I mean, you can just see it in the body language of these two teams. Jacksonville kind of knows that that was the one. They can't afford to give that one up. They had a very hard time resetting the disc. Bobby Lay eventually lets one go to Fairley. He's outrun. And they just can't hang with this Dallas team. And Stanley Peterson's, it's like you forget he's even on the team. This guy's a phenomenal ultimate player. And he's just kind of hanging back, playing with 3 of the all-time greats on the roster. You know, I mean, he doesn't have to carry more than just a very reasonable load. These Jacksonville guys, every reset's tough. Guys like Misha have to make every play that comes to them, everything in the range they have to come down with. And it's just, they're asking a lot more from their squad than the Roughnecks are.
Jacksonville has just over 3 minutes with which to work. Oh, goodness. Matt Bennett soaring over Bobby Lay, and that might be the knockout blow.
Matt Bennett riding that wave, lots of momentum. You can see just a loose swing pass here. Sits up, and that's all Matt Bennett needed to see.
Matt Bennett, for a guy who's not the biggest, had 13 Ds in 12 games in the regular season. He's good for one of those a game.
Yeah, that's a pretty good rate. It's a pretty good rate. And so dangerous with the disc.
Larberg running right with Bennett there after the turn for the quick and easy score.
Matt Bennett, great at some things, not great at other things.
Well, the pull sails wide. So Jacksonville, despite beating Dallas twice in the regular season, 24-22 on May the 12th, and then 28-27 on this field here in Dallas. 8 weeks later, runs out of gas in the playoffs. The Roughnecks have brought their A game. You get to see now Dallas crisp to the finish line. Dylan Larberg marked by Jeremy Langdon, who's had, as you mentioned, a rough day.
Yeah, great job by Dallas of more or less taking Langdon and Huston out of the game. I mean, we just have not seen them in the end zone the way you would expect.
Oh. Langdon, big bid, couldn't get there. Larberg brothers both very involved on this point. Chris number 4, Dylan number 11. We tick under 2 minutes to play, and Dallas increases its lead to 10.
So Dallas and Raleigh. I mean, this should be interesting. You've got, you know, Raleigh's the heavy favorite, I guess. Maybe not a heavy favorite. But they're probably the best team in the league. Let's put it that way. Raleigh's probably the best team in the league, and they're going to be at home. But then you've got Kurt Gibson, who's going to be even more healthy than he is now.
I have another 2 weeks.
He looks great now. And then you've got Jimmy Mickle and Dylan Freechild minus jet lag. And with slightly more of their natural colored hair, it's trouble.
It's going to be fascinating to see what Raleigh does defensively against Dallas, because they have a lot of capable athletes that they can throw at Dallas's big guns. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas has a completely different offensive game plan. Maybe switches guys around. You know, today it's been a lot of Mazer and Freechild on D instead of O. Stanley Peterson has played a lot of D instead of O. Patrick Eberle is going to go into the laboratory and think of something new. There was contact there. Mazer asked LaRock if he fouled him, and LaRock said he did, and Chris said okay.
Sounds reasonable.
Chris joined the Roughnecks midway through last season after moving from New York to Dallas. He's just moved to LA though, as Lay shoots it long. Sullivan makes the catch.
Lay is so awesome. That's such a nice throw. Gets the disc, and Cole Sullivan's cutting, making kind of a stupid looking cut, just almost like a clearing cut, but he sees that the disc is resetting to Bobby Lay, and if it's resetting to Bobby Lay, well, then this becomes a great cut. Just start running as far away as you can.
Break side.
Break side, because you know Bobby's going to get it. He doesn't need a whole lot of time to get that backhand off. And you also know that his brain is locked in on that space. Some guys, I mean, honestly, some guys don't even look over there. They won't even see Cole cutting, or they'll see him and they'll say, what is he doing? That doesn't make sense. And there's something about these really high-level throwers like Bobby Lay where they understand how to attack defenses, and they understand the moment, they understand the space. You know, it's something that Jakeem Polk is learning as a guy coming over from football. Real good cornerback in football, and he's learning the space in Ultimate. It's so different.
Yep.
And, man, if you see the space well as a thrower or as a defender, it makes a huge difference. Makes up for speed and power.
Kirk Gibson over to Brandon Malachek. Dallas 65 seconds away from officially wrapping this one up. Jimmy Mickle had 11 turnovers in the 2 regular season games against Jacksonville, and don't believe he's had a throwaway tonight. Not a single one. That's a nice shot. Abe Coffin dishes another souvenir into the crowd. 39 seconds on the clock. And you know, Chuck, Jacksonville was the first team to beat Dallas ever. And Jacksonville was the first team to win here in Dallas ever. They're not going to be the first team to beat Dallas in the playoffs, at least not this year.
No, and you know, Dallas is coming on right at the right time of the year. I mean, they're the defending champ. They're just hitting their stride. They got guys who are in World Games shape added to the roster here. I mean, this is looking pretty good if you're Dallas and you're trying to pull the upset against Raleigh. Let me ask you, though, did you see the interview with the Sin the Fields guys, Tad Whistle and Patrick Stegemiller, sitting in a van interviewing Cole Sullivan?
Of course.
And Brandon Muffin Malachek?
It was great journalism.
That was incredible. That was some of the best video you could watch. Cole Sullivan, Brandon Malachek.
You know, there had been some words exchanged, and
sure,
you know, it's good to get the principals together. And you know, Tad, who will be playing for the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds next weekend, and Pat Stegemiller, former Rochester Dragon. They're 2 of the great you know, mediators, dignitaries in the sport.
No doubt, asking the tough questions, forcing the community to come together and also laugh pretty regularly.
Jacksonville was down by 2 at the end of 1. They trailed by 4 at the half. They were down by 7 after 3. And the lead has swelled to 10 with 5 seconds to go. And Sullivan dishes it for Roney. Final throw of the game. Good if it goes. And Langdon could not hang on in the end zone. And the Dallas Roughnecks are headed back to the South Division title game with a convincing 22-12 victory over the Jacksonville Cannons.
And they go down swinging. You know, Jacksonville fighting hard. Even on the last point, they're looking to get a shot to the end zone. And that's kind of the character of this South Division. This is a scrappy division. All these teams fight hard, play hard. Some of the most athletic rosters we've ever seen in the sport. And tip of the hat to Jacksonville. They had a good year, really bounced back after a subpar year last year, and have a lot to be proud of.
Jimmy Mickle with 5 assists to lead the Cannons. Dylan Larberg, Kirk Gibson, and Matt Bennett each had 3. Meanwhile, Dallas's leading goal scorer tonight was Abe Coffin with 5. Dylan Freechild had 4. And just a convincing performance from the Roughnecks as they win it 22-12 over the Jacksonville Cannons. We'll talk to you again here on the 11 Sports Network 2 weeks from now from Madison. The Radicals taking on either Minnesota or Pittsburgh in the Midwest Final. But for now, we say so long for Chuck Kindred and our entire crew. Evan Lepler bidding you adieu from Dallas, where the Roughnecks take out the Cannons 22-12.